Think this sounds impossible? So did people in the United Kingdom before Brexit happened. So did the Soviet Union before it collapsed. Every seismic political shift starts as an outlandish idea, until suddenly, it's happening. California isn't just another state. It's the fifth largest economy in the world. It holds more influence than most countries. And now, the push for Calexit, California's independence from the United States, is gaining momentum again. The question isn't just, could California leave? It's what happens if it does. Would its economy boom or bust? Would the United States let it go peacefully or fight to keep it? And if California goes, could other states follow? Strap in. This isn't just speculation, it's a movement with real money, real political backing, and real consequences. This isn't the first time California has flirted with independence. The Yes California movement, the most vocal Calexit group, first gained steam after Donald Trump's 2016 election. Back then, the argument was simple. California's progressive values were completely at odds with Trump's America. But now, it's not just about politics. The state's relationship with the federal government has become more strained than ever. Immigration battles. California openly defied Trump's immigration crackdowns. Even under Biden, it continues to push back against federal policies. Economic grievances. Californians pay far more in federal taxes than they receive in funding, a long-standing frustration. Cultural divide, on abortion, climate policy, gun control. California and conservative states like Texas might as well be in different countries. And the biggest spark? Economic survival. Many argue that California has the resources to go it alone. But does it? A decade ago, Calexit was a joke, a fringe movement with no real backing. Today, it has political action committees, funding, and growing support among younger Californians. The 2020s have turned long-shot ideas into political realities. If Brexit happened, if Trump became president, if tech billionaires can create their own digital currencies, why couldn't California become its own nation? In 2021, a poll by the University of California found that 41% of California voters supported some form of independence. In 2023, a new initiative was filed for a 2024 referendum on independence. Major California business leaders, especially in Silicon Valley, have quietly discussed post-United States financial strategies. The question isn't if Calexit has support, it's whether it can actually happen. California's $4.2 trillion economy is larger than that of Germany and the United Kingdom. If it left the United States, it would immediately be one of the top 5 economies in the world. But here's the problem. Size doesn't guarantee stability. Federal funding, California receives about $380 billion in federal money annually. Losing that would create an immediate budget crisis. Debt crisis. The state has $778 billion in liabilities, including pension obligations. Who would be responsible for paying that? Trade chaos. The United States is California's biggest trading partner. Would the new nation face tariffs? Would companies relocate? Some experts argue that long-term California could thrive, especially if it kept its tech dominance and agricultural exports. Others warn that a capital exodus and loss of federal contracts could trigger an economic freefall. Which one is true? The answer depends on one thing: how friendly would the split be? The divide between California and conservative America is wider than ever. On gun laws, California has some of the strictest in the nation. Texas, Florida, and much of the Midwest have the loosest. On climate policy, California leads in green energy, while oil-producing states resist regulations. On abortion and LGBTQ rights, California is a sanctuary state, while others push bans. But here's the twist. Not all of California wants independence. Rural parts of the state lean conservative and might prefer to stay in the United States. So if Calexit happened, would California itself break apart? Would Washington just let California leave? Unlikely. California contributes 14% of United States GDP. It's a major defense hub. It houses critical infrastructure. Losing it would weaken America's global influence overnight. Look at history. When the southern states tried to leave in 1861, the United States government went to war to stop them. No state has successfully left since. Would America actually go to war over California? Probably not. But economic retaliation, sanctions, political punishment, almost guaranteed. If California exits, the political landscape of the U.S. shifts overnight. The Democratic Party would take a devastating hit, losing 54 congressional seats and 55 electoral votes, making it nearly impossible for them to win the White House without a complete strategy overhaul. The Senate would lean significantly more conservative, altering the balance of power on everything from judicial appointments to tax policies. With California gone, progressive policies would lose their biggest testing ground, while Republicans, despite gaining a political advantage, would also lose their biggest economic contributor. The irony? Some conservatives might celebrate California's departure only to realize that the absence of its tax revenue leaves red states scrambling for federal funds, deepening internal economic fractures. If California succeeds in leaving, it could set a precedent that fractures the entire nation. Texas has had its own Texit movement for years, fueled by similar grievances, too much federal oversight, cultural differences, and a desire to control its own destiny. The state's oil economy is powerful enough to support an independent nation, and its history as a former republic still fuels secessionist sentiment. If California and Texas both left, it wouldn't just weaken Washington politically. It could push other regions, like the South or the Pacific Northwest, to consider self-rule. The breakup of the U.S. might not happen overnight, but once the idea of secession becomes normalized, the unthinkable starts to look inevitable. Recognition is everything. Without it, California could declare independence, but functionally remain in limbo. Unable to negotiate trade deals, establish embassies, or even issue official passports. Countries like China and Russia might see an independent California as a way to weaken U.S. influence and recognize it immediately, using trade deals and diplomatic gestures to pull it into their orbit. The European Union might hesitate, fearing a ripple effect that emboldens separatist movements in places like Catalonia or Scotland. The biggest roadblock? The United States itself. Washington could pressure allies to reject California's independence, making it difficult for the new nation to integrate into global systems. If the U.S. doesn't recognize California, its economy could face years of instability, locked in a geopolitical chess match over its legitimacy. Despite California's progressive reputation, the state itself is deeply divided. Coastal cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles might rally behind independence, seeing it as an opportunity for political and economic freedom, but rural inland regions that lean conservative would likely resist, fearing economic collapse and political marginalization. The divide could become violent. Imagine counties attempting to break away from California to rejoin the U.S., triggering internal conflicts over governance and resource control. Even among those who favor independence, there's no consensus on what an independent California would look like. Would it remain a republic? Would it adopt a parliamentary system? Who controls the military bases? The internal divisions could weaken the movement from within before it even has a chance to take off. The most catastrophic scenario? A failed state. If California doesn't secure quick international recognition, investors panic, companies relocate, and a financial crisis unfolds. The loss of federal funding combined with a messy transition could create an economic collapse, leaving California scrambling for basic infrastructure support. Supply chain issues could emerge if neighboring states refuse to cooperate, and a political standoff with Washington could lead to federal sanctions. In an extreme case, civil unrest could erupt, with factions within California pushing for reunification or outside forces interfering for their own gain. The worst-case scenario isn't just economic hardship. It's a political disaster where California finds itself neither fully independent nor welcome back into the U.S., stuck in a purgatory of uncertainty and instability. Right now, Calexit exists more in theory than reality, but history shows that radical political shifts often start as fringe ideas. Brexit was dismissed as unlikely until it passed. The Soviet Union seemed unshakable until it collapsed. California's independence might sound implausible today, but movements gain momentum when economic pressures and political divides grow too large to ignore. The real question isn't just whether Calexit could happen, it's whether the political and economic conditions will continue pushing it from fantasy into reality. And if that moment arrives, will Washington fight to keep its wealthiest state, or will it let California walk away, changing the course of American history forever? We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.